Hi guys, so before we get into it, a quick disclaimer that there will be some spoilers today, although I won't tell you how this film ends. So I watched Satan's Slave about a week ago. I've sat on this one a little while before getting on and reviewing it. This is a film that I'd not previously heard of. It was recommended to me by a friend. It was directed by a guy called Norman J. Warren. He did a bunch of horror films in his time, although the only one that I've heard of is Inseminoid from the early 80s, a film that I've heard of but I've not seen, ultimately. So this film is on YouTube. I'm talking about Satan's Slave now, and I'm a little bit surprised about that because it's very violent in places. It's got quite a bit of nudity, at least one gratuitous sex scene, and yet it's just sat there available for anybody to watch. YouTube is very inconsistent, isn't it? Like, videos can get taken down for the slightest little thing, some bullshit copyright reason or whatever. But a film like Satan's Slave, that's fine to just be on there for anybody to see. If Satan's Slave came out in 2025, I am pretty sure it would still get an 18 rating, even with today's more lax system. So to give you an idea of the plot, we've got this young woman called Catherine who is travelling to her uncle's fancy manor with her parents, but just as they get to the front gates, they have a crash which kills the two parents in an explosive fireball. Catherine gets out, but she falls unconscious, I think, and then she wakes up the following day, and her uncle and his son Stephen, and also there's a secretary called Francis. There's three of them living in this house. So the three of them are going to try and nurse Catherine back to health and try and make her feel better, I guess, about the fact that her parents have just died. But we know that Catherine is not safe in this place because a little bit earlier on we had a double prologue where first we see some kind of religious cult sacrificing someone on an altar. It's this hot young blonde woman, she gets stabbed. Why is it that any time in an old horror movie, whenever there's a scene like this involving a cult with guys in gowns and masks, the person they're killing is always a really super spectacular hot blonde? It was the same in Race for the Devil, I think, and probably the same in other movies. If I was a woman and I wasn't very good looking at all, I think I'd feel quite down about that, but at the same time I'd also feel quite chipper in the knowledge that at least I would never be captured by a dangerous religious cult and sacrificed on an altar. I'd carry that knowledge with me on a day-to-day basis as like a really good consolation prize in my life. But we know that there's a cult in this film. We just don't know where they are, or maybe they involve the people in the manor. But we also know that Stephen, the uncle's son, is a murderer because in one of the opening scenes we see him bringing a date back to the manor, and after they've not quite managed to have sex with each other, Stephen viciously murders her. This guy is an absolute psychopath. So bottom line, Catherine is absolutely not safe in this place. She might have survived the crash, but now she's got a lot of other things to worry about. The manor or the mansion or whatever you want to call it looks absolutely terrific in this. Despite a fairly limited budget, they really got lucky when it came to securing a location because this house honestly looks sublime. It was apparently once owned by a baron and baroness, and that alone tells you how fancy it is without even seeing it. But it looks great on the inside. It looks majestic on the outside with these really fancy extended gardens and woods surround the whole estate as well. It's terrific. This place is in Pirbright in Surrey. I've not personally heard of that place. I mean, obviously, I've heard of Pirbright, but no idea where this Surrey place is. Maybe it's a county, possibly. The plot of Satan's Slave gets a little bit meandering past a certain point. So once we get past the excitement of the double prologue and the car explosion that largely kicks the plot off, we then get almost an hour of Catherine free to walk around the manor. She's slowly falling in love with Stephen. They're hanging out together all the time. This goes on for a while, but the film is at least self-aware of the fact that this could have got monotonous. So every now and again we'll get a little bit of action where Catherine has a daydream or an actual dream where she's imagining something the cult are getting up to, another ritual killing usually, or maybe somebody getting whipped against the side of a tree and then they'll die. So we're getting to see the occasional kill, but in dream form. So it might not actually be happening. It might just be a figment of Catherine's imagination. And at one point, we also see the death of a man who is miles away from the manor. This would be Catherine's boyfriend. I don't know why the cult, or maybe it's Stephen, decides to off this guy, because he's nowhere even close to realizing where Catherine is or coming to look for her. So these kills in dreams and the kill of the boyfriend, they're entirely there to just give us a little bit of something to look at. Otherwise, the plot would get a little bit stale in the middle third, because there aren't really any characters in the manor who can be killed. There's only 3 people who normally live in this place, and we need these people to still be around come the finale. All the kills that actually happen in this film, i.e. not the dream ones, are really notable and memorable, either for good or for bad reasons. I didn't like the kill that's in the first 5 minutes when Stephen kills his date. It made me feel really uncomfortable, actually. So he's got this pair of scissors and he makes like he's thinking of cutting off one of her breasts, but then he doesn't. But then he takes the scissors between her legs and you think he's going to ram them up there or something. I don't like violence against breasts or the nether regions. It's just a little bit too extreme for me. So I was squirming a little bit during these opening scenes because I didn't know this movie at all. I didn't know what I was in for, and I genuinely thought like he was going to get really serious on this woman. So I didn't like that scene. I was relieved when it was over and he killed her a different way. But in the second half of the movie, there's 2 brilliant kills for different reasons. Firstly, there's the death of a man who's falling from a great height. And seeing it done really well, like it's done in this film, it just reminded me of so many worse films where you see a dummy thrown off a roof and it clearly looks nothing like a human being because it's just not weighted the right way. And then even in like the 80s and the 90s and the early era of special effects, you'd get like that death at the end of RoboCop where the guy's just like, oh, but it looks really fake. You'd get some deaths like that, but this is how you do it. And this was in the 70s. They've put like a camera on a piece of string or rope, I guess, and they've spun it around so the camera's spinning on its way down, and you just have this disorientating view out of the victim's eyes, like he's going round and round, and it's genuinely scary. And then you cut to what I presume is a dummy at this stage, just hitting the ground, boom, and then blood spurting everywhere, but really effectively done. This is how to do the death of somebody falling from height. And then there's another death where somebody's viciously stabbed with glass shards quite late on. It's done by Stephen, psychopathic man that he is. And he's so frenzied. Whenever he goes for somebody in this film, he just really goes for it. Like Rob Zombie's version of Michael Myers, where he just keeps going, keeps stabbing, keeps laying into somebody, and it's really vicious. I don't like Stephen's character in this when he's just kind of trying to be all sweet. He's like a slimy snake trying to work his way into Catherine's attentions. But when he's attacking somebody or killing somebody, he's great. Honestly, he's like a wild animal. If this guy, this character, had been in Scream 6, he would have been in serious danger of actually killing off one of the main characters. When it comes to the actors, Michael Gough is definitely the most famous person here. But I'd say the standout performance is from Barbara Kellerman, who plays Frances, the secretary. She's not the main girl in this, but she's probably got the most demanding part because she's got this constant dilemma in her head as to whether to stay on the side of bad or join the good side, because she's having this on-off fling with Stephen even before this story starts. But he rebuffs her a lot of the time. I'm not sure if Frances wants to be with Stephen because she genuinely loves him or whether she's just interested in the wealth that would come with that union. But she definitely knows what Stephen gets up to sometimes. She knows he's a killer. And when this film gets towards the nitty-gritty, she's constantly wondering whether to stay loyal to Stephen, even though he's a bad man, or help Catherine get out of this hell house. But if she does that, then she will permanently miss out on the chance to enter this life of wealth. So she doesn't know what to do. And in every scene that Frances is in, you can see the cogs playing in her mind as to which direction to go in. And it does take a decent bit of acting on the actress's part. Candace Glendenning, who plays the main girl, her performance in this is fine. This is a good-looking actress, and she plays her role really well. Although I don't think there's a lot for her to do in terms of acting until probably the last 10 or 15 minutes when she suddenly realises that she's no longer in a Jane Austen novel. The finale is really exciting when it kicks into gear. The kills are good. There are plot twists. There's something that I guess could pass for a chase. The only weakness in the film as a whole is that Catherine's character is a little bit gullible at times, and it's frustrating how she falls for Stephen, because this guy doesn't exactly have what you'd call an exciting personality. He puts on a show of charm, but it's not like he's Mr. Personality. I hope it's not just the wealth that Catherine's attracted to here, because I'd find that kind of depressing. But we see Catherine with her boyfriend in an early scene, and they get on really well, and he seems like a really great guy, much more charming than the character of Stephen. So it's kind of weird how Catherine just forgets about her boyfriend and falls for somebody less charming, seemingly. I didn't like that aspect of the movie. But also, there are times in this when people try and persuade Catherine that maybe she imagined her parents blowing up in the car. And the fact that she sort of goes, oh, well, maybe it didn't happen. Maybe you're right. I'm like, seriously? If you witnessed your parents going up in flames, I don't see how you could be persuaded that maybe you just imagined that. So again, just something that's a little bit silly within this movie. But overall, still really enjoyed this. Really good film. I'd say it falls into the dangerous religious cult subgenre of horror, if that's a thing. It would fit alongside such films as maybe The Devil Rides Out and The Wicker Man, that kind of thing. But it's definitely worth watching. Right, it's time to get to the bag of terror so I can show you what score I'm going to give Satan's Slave. Not to be confused, by the way, with Satan's Slaves from 2017. Just bear in mind that that other film exists if you try and type this into YouTube looking for the film that I'm reviewing today. Right, that score. Here's the bag. Quite a few things fell out. Let's see how many. 1, 2, 3... 4 Michael Myers carving knives out of 5. This is highly recommended, so I suggest that you get on and watch this as soon as you possibly can. Right, before we go, let's have a quick reading update. So I've just finished reading Different Seasons by Stephen King. This is a really chunky book. It's made up of 4 novellas, and 2 of them are absolute masterpieces. So Rita Hayworth and The Shawshank Redemption, which went on to be the movie The Shawshank Redemption, that is absolutely brilliant. Just as good in print form as it is in movie form. And even better than that is the story called The Body, which would go on to be the movie Stand By Me. Oh, it's so amazing. And then we have something called The Breathing Method, which is not quite as good as the other 2 stories I've mentioned, but still really solid. The only story that lets the side down in this collection is something called Apt Pupil, which is about this guy who befriends a pensioner who used to be a Nazi. That one didn't really hit for me. It's a little bit foul, even by King's standards, but the other 3 are absolutely awesome. So I love this book. I'm going to give it 4.5 out of 5 overall. Top notch. This book spawned 3 movies: Shawshank Redemption, Stand By Me, and Apt Pupil, and 2 of those movies are regarded as, 2 of the greatest films that ever was. So very important book, I'd say, in Stephen King's bibliography. Right, we'll leave it there for today. Don't forget to follow me on X if you haven't already. My name on there is the same as it is here, The Midnight Woodsman. And I guess that's all. I'll finish by saying that it's at the time that I'm filming, September the 7th, this is my birthday today, and I've decided to treat myself by going to watch The Conjuring Last Rites at the cinema. I'm going to be setting off in an hour or 2, so I'm really looking forward to that. I might do a review of that later in the week. I'll certainly do a Conjuring ranking in the forthcoming days and weeks. Right, we'll leave it there. Until next time, cheerio, bye-bye.